Imagine a country that has advanced technology, world class infrastructure, wealthy citizens, excellent healthcare, and stable institutions. Now imagine that same country facing a crisis so serious that it threatens economic growth, pension systems, healthcare services, housing construction, transportation networks, and even national defense. What is the crisis? Not a recession, not inflation, not a war, but a shortage of workers. Right now, many of the world's richest countries are discovering a surprising and uncomfortable reality. They don't have enough people to keep their economies running. Japan has more adult diapers sold than baby diapers. Germany needs hundreds of thousands of additional workers every year just to maintain its labor force. Italy's birth rate has fallen to levels that would have seemed impossible a generation ago. South Korea has the lowest fertility rate ever recorded for a major economy. And even countries that continue attracting immigrants, like Canada and the US, are struggling to fill critical shortages in healthcare, construction, logistics, and skilled trades. This is not a temporary labor market fluctuation. It is one of the most important structural changes of the 21st century. And if you're a student, a skilled professional, an immigrant, an entrepreneur, or someone trying to understand where future opportunities will come from, this trend could affect your career more than almost any AI headline you read this year. Today, we're going to look at why rich countries are running out of workers, the demographic math behind the crisis, why immigration is becoming an economic necessity rather than just a political debate, and what this means for ambitious professionals over the next 10 to 20 years. Let's dive in. Every economy depends on a simple ratio: workers support retirees. For decades, most developed countries had a relatively healthy balance. A large working age population paid taxes that funded pensions, healthcare, infrastructure, education, and other public services. But that balance is changing rapidly. The replacement rate for a population to remain stable without immigration, women need to have roughly 2.1 children on average. Now look at some current fertility rates. South Korea 0.7, Italy 1.2, Spain 1.2, Japan 1.3, Germany 1.4 to 1.5, Canada 1.3, the US 1.6. Every one of these countries is below replacement level. That means each generation is smaller than the one before it. And the effects don't show up overnight. That's what makes this such a dangerous problem. If a country has too few babies today, it won't feel the full impact immediately. It will feel it 20 years later when those missing children are supposed to be entering the workforce. Demography is like steering a giant ship. By the time you realize you're heading towards the iceberg, it's often too late to turn quickly. If you want to see what an aging society looks like, look at Japan. Japan's population peaked at about 128 million around 2010. It has already fallen by several million people and is projected to decline much further in the coming decades. More importantly, nearly 30% of Japan's population is over 65. That is an astonishing number. Think about what that means. Fewer workers paying taxes, more retirees drawing pensions, greater demand for healthcare and elder care, fewer young families buying homes and consumer goods. Japan has responded with automation, robotics, encouraging older people to work longer, increasing female labor force participation, and gradually becoming more open to foreign workers than it was historically. But even with advanced robotics, Japan has not fully solved the problem. This is the first important insight. Technology can reduce labor shortages, but it rarely eliminates the need for human workers entirely. Germany is a particularly important case because it combines a strong industrial economy, high productivity, excellent vocational training, and severe demographic pressure. According to German labor market projections, the country needs hundreds of thousands of additional workers annually to offset retirements and maintain economic capacity. The shortages are not just in highly paid tech jobs. Germany needs nurses, caregivers, electricians, plumbers, truck drivers, engineers, construction workers, and manufacturing technicians. This is crucial. Many people imagine the future labor market as AI engineers and everyone else. The reality is much more complex. Aging societies often face the biggest shortages in healthcare, elder care, skilled trades, transportation, and infrastructure maintenance. These are jobs that are physically present, locally delivered, and difficult to offshore. Germany's response has included new skilled worker immigration laws designed to make it easier for qualified foreign professionals to live and work there. That is not ideological, it is arithmetic. Italy is one of the clearest examples of what happens when low birth rates persist for decades. The country's fertility rate has hovered around 1.2 children per woman, among the lowest in Europe. In some regions, schools are closing because there's simply not enough children. Villages are losing population. The workforce is aging rapidly. At the same time, Italy has a large pension burden, significant public debt, and industries that still require substantial human labor, including tourism, manufacturing, food production, and healthcare. This creates a paradox. Countries can have unemployment problems and worker shortage problems at the same time. How? Because the shortages are often in specific sectors, locations, or skill categories, while unemployed workers may have different qualifications or live in different regions. That is why demographic decline is not automatically solved by existing unemployment. So, why are birth rates falling across so many rich countries? Researchers point to several overlapping factors. Number one is housing costs. In many developed economies, young adults spend a much larger share of income on housing than previous generations. When buying a home feels unattainable, people often delay marriage, children, and long term family commitments. The next is education and career pressure. People spend longer in education and enter stable careers later. A 24-year-old today is often in a very different financial position than a 24-year-old in 1985. The third is urbanization. Large cities tend to have lower fertility rates than rural areas. As populations concentrate in expensive metropolitan regions, birth rates often decline further. The next factor is economic uncertainty. Temporary contracts, gig work, student debt, and volatile housing markets make long-term planning more difficult. The result is that many countries are experiencing fewer births and longer life expectancy. That is the demographic combination that produces rapid population aging. Here's where the story becomes extremely relevant to you. As populations age, the number of elderly people needing care rises dramatically. That means countries need more nurses, doctors, therapists, home care workers, medical technicians, and support staff. The OECD has repeatedly warned that many developed countries face substantial healthcare workforce shortages as older healthcare workers retire and demand for services increases. Think about the scale of this challenge. A country may need millions of additional healthcare interactions per year while simultaneously having fewer working age adults available to provide them. This is one reason healthcare related professions are likely to remain relatively resilient even in an AI driven economy. AI can help with diagnostics paperwork, scheduling, and decision support, but it cannot replace the need for human caregivers at scale. Now we arrive at the most controversial part of the conversation. When many people hear immigration, they think primarily about culture, politics, borders, or national identity. But economists increasingly view immigration through another lens: labor force sustainability. Imagine a country with 100 retirees and 200 workers. If the number of retirees rises to 150, while the number of workers falls to 170, each worker must support a much larger share of the system through taxes and economic output. Governments have only a few options. Option 1 is to raise birth rates. Almost every developed country has tried some combination of cash payments, parental leave, childcare subsidies, housing support. The results have generally been modest. Birth rates rarely return to replacement level. Option 2 is to make people work longer. Raise retirement ages. This is what's happening in many countries, but it has political and practical limits. Option 3 is to increase productivity. Automation and AI can help, but they cannot fully replace workers in many service sectors. Option 4 is to bring in more workers. This is why immigration is increasingly becoming an economic tool for maintaining the workforce, tax base, and public services. That does not mean every immigration policy is good or that integration challenges do not exist. It means that many aging economies face a genuine demographic constraint. The key question is no longer, do we want immigration? The key question is often, how do we attract and integrate the workers we need while maintaining social cohesion? That is a much more nuanced and economically grounded discussion. If you are a young professional, this trend creates both risks and opportunities. The opportunities are countries with aging populations are likely to place increasing value on people who can contribute in shortage sectors. These include high demand categories like healthcare, skilled trades, engineering, cybersecurity, infrastructure, energy systems, advanced manufacturing, AI, and data infrastructure. In other words, the future may reward not just prestige degrees, but skills that aging societies cannot function without. A professional who understands demographic trends, labor shortages, immigration pathways, and purchasing power can make much more strategic career decisions than someone who simply chases the highest advertised salary. This connects directly to something we discussed in the previous video. The countries with the greatest long-term opportunity may not be the countries with the loudest global brand. There is a deeper historical point here. For most of human history, the central economic problem was too many people chasing too few resources. In parts of the developed world, we are beginning to face the opposite problem: too few workers supporting increasingly large elderly populations. That has enormous implications for economic growth, housing markets, wages, automation, taxation, and global migration patterns. It may also explain why the next few decades could look very different from the globalization that shaped the careers of many millennials. Countries will compete not only for capital, technology, and energy, but increasingly for young workers, skilled professionals, entrepreneurs, and caregivers. The global talent war is not a future possibility. It has already begun. So why are rich countries running out of workers? Because birth rates have fallen below replacement levels for decades. Because people are living longer, because large generations are retiring, and because many essential jobs still require human beings, not just algorithms. This is not a temporary labor shortage. It is a structural demographic shift that will shape the global economy for the next generation. For some countries, it represents serious fiscal and social challenges. For skilled workers who understand these trends, it may also represent one of the largest opportunity shifts of the coming decades. The most important question is not which country is richest today, it may be which country will need productive, skilled people the most tomorrow. If this video gave you a new perspective, let me know in the comments. Which country do you think is facing the most serious worker shortage over the next 20 years? If you found this video engaging and useful, subscribe for more content like this. I'll see you in the next one.